morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for
well, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for kicking off the morning with us. Kicking off the presentations. My name is Kendra. I am with Robotique. Some people refer to us as Robot IQ. If you talk to our French Canadian counterparts, it's robotic. So, I respond to all of the above. So I'm happy to be here today, kind of touch base a little bit about palletizing from my perspective, along with Derek here. So.
And I'm Derek. I'm the automation product manager with Adams. So, I deal with all of our robot product lines and any sort of supporting hardware, conveyors, safety systems, all that type of stuff. So, so today we wanted to just discuss with you guys, kind of what we see in the market as far as a lot of the labor issues that a lot of manufacturers are dealing with. I'm sure you're no strangers to that either. I mean, if there's one thing that COVID exposed, it was that. We're going to go over, how automation and how palletizing helps address some of those issues and, where it can make an impact to your business. So, like I said, we're not strangers to this. We've been seeing this for quite some time. I see some familiar faces in the room, and a lot of you have either have a lot of automation or are in pursuit of that currently. We know it's what you have to do if you want to stay competitive in this business, right? So, what we do here at Adams is kind of walk our customers through the best ways to approach those projects, those applications, what's going to make the best impact for you, because there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. In regards to labor, right? Not only is there a lack of it, but I'm sure a lot of you experience the issues for your products because of that, quality issues, all of that, which obviously has an impact to your bottom line. So, in trying to address those issues, right? It's what do you do? How what's the best process or what's the best way to go about it to solve that, right? A lot of things that can be automated, but not everything makes sense to be automated. So, we kind of key on these pillars to focus on when you're trying to figure out, okay, if I'm looking top down at my process, what are the key things I should be looking for? They're pretty obvious, right? High volume, high repeatability, anything that's, high production cost to assemble, to make, anything, low difficulty, right? Anything, of course, causing quality issues, and of course, you got to have a return there, right? Or else it doesn't make sense. So what we find, because we do, custom applications all across the board, right? Some are a lot more difficult than others, right? And some land, some don't. What we find is that palletizing is a really, really great place to start, and it's a process that 90% of our customers have, right? You guys are all making something, and it's got to go out the door, right? So, 90% of the time that's on a pallet, and someone is currently doing that, or there's some process currently doing that, right? And normally it hits on all of these factors. Manual palletizing, right? It's a critical task. It doesn't seem like that, right? Because you're just stacking boxes, right? But it's the last thing that hands touch before it goes out the door. So there's issues around did the wrong product go on the wrong pallet? Now you're dealing with customer complaints, returns, whatever, all of that stuff, right? And then there's a lot of ergonomic issues with it as well. Depending on what you do. Some of that stuff's pretty heavy. It's hard to, how long, are people willing to stack boxes all day, right? It's hard to keep people doing those jobs. And, it's not a task that you probably love paying for, right? Because, you'd probably rather have those hands doing something else that has more value to your process, right? And not just wasting time stacking boxes all day long, right?
Yeah, we have a customer, Cascade Coffee up in Seattle, and the upper management was being pulled into these tasks because the temporary workers that they had hired didn't know how to build the stacks properly. And so it was a constant repalletizing that was occurring, and upper management was being pulled into a task that he should not be focusing on. But yet the product had to get out the door. He had to satisfy his customers' needs. And so he was being pulled into something he shouldn't be. He's supposed to be focusing on all these other deadlines and things he needs to meet. But the lack of knowledge of how to palletize properly, and that temp worker revolving door of people maybe not showing up when they don't feel like it. There's not a lot of accountability there. And then when they show up and they have to do a dull, boring task, it's something that they might not show up for again the next day. And it's something that's out of your control. And if you can, consider automating these sorts of processes, you're really de-risking that happening. And in this facility, particularly where they went ahead and automated with our palletizing solutions, now if there is a troubleshoot and the line is down and they have to go back to manually palletizing, they don't like it. So if you're fearful of, the shift away from this sort of task is going to be harmful for employee retention and things, we have not seen that. We have seen the fact that they can go into a better value add task in the line. They're helping the production increase, and then they're probably getting into a job that has higher wages and is making them more happy and more satisfied in their day-to-day. That is a snowball effect, and that's something that maybe people don't track in statistics and things, right? Satisfaction of that employee matters a lot to how good the production is going to be, how happy they are to show up, they're showing up on time, and then things are being produced at a fast rate and you're meeting your customers' demands as well.
Yeah, one thing we'll talk about is, it also, from a operational standpoint, it adds, predictability to what you're doing, right? Knowing, not having to, we're going to be way behind today because 3 people didn't show up. You know what I mean? So when let's say you decide, okay, we're gonna palletize, right? You can obviously continue manual palletizing, and these are the issues that we see associated with that, right? Those are pretty cut and dry there. But you can also do industrial palletizing. What we're going to touch on here is the value of doing a collaborative palletizer, like the one you guys will see down in the shop after this, Industrial palletizing definitely has its place, right? I mean, we've done them. If the application calls for it, it is what it is, right? If it's really heavy or really, really fast or anything like that, you just have to go that route, right? But one thing, they're not flexible. So it better be something that you have, a contract for X amount of years, or not something you can be fluid at all. You can't decide, okay, for 6 months we're going to do this, and 6 months we're going to do that, right? Takes up a lot of space because they're industrial robots, so they have to be hard guarded, right? So now you're talking a big cage, a lot of safety. It's not as flexible, to get pallets in and out, right? There's just a lot more that goes into it. The time, right? So most of the time on anything industrial related, right, unless you have a group internally that does robot programming, you're going to be relying on a third party like integrator to do it. And then so any sort of changes or anything like that, any tweaks to a program, you're either going to be at their mercy to when they can get that done, or you're going to be doing it yourself, and that takes a lot more time.
Yeah, I went into a facility and they had a big room dedicated to palletizing. It's well-known brand food. They produce some nice candy. I love their candy. It smelled good in there, all good things. But what they noticed is that they had these giant palletizers. There were 2 of them in this room. And when those went down, it didn't just affect one line, it affected all 15 lines feeding into that giant palletizer. So now all of a sudden this lack of flexibility and ability to get anything out the door was a mad panic. And then again, they relied on that outsourcing of a knowledge coming in to fix that issue. And it was just a snowball effect. And so the idea for them was to take a cobot palletizer, drop it in on a few of the lines, be able to maybe move that when needed in certain production instances. But then if something were to go down, it would affect 1 or 2 lines, not 15 lines in that instance. Also, all this crazy conveyance that is overhead and all of this, it looks really impressive in things, but the amount of money for installation of something like that and the cost, and then actually knowing that you're going to even get that material. So pretty soon your project that was, we want to do this year, it gets pushed down the line, and the time that you don't automate is all time that we're wasting, right? And we all know that, right? Time is money. We all hear this. but the urgency to get up and running as fast as possible, even if it's not 100% to what you envisioned in the perfect mindset, is really important to keep in mind. Simplicity is key. If you keep it simple and then build off of that, even if it's 90% of the way there, but it's functional and running, then you can start making those tweaks to make it what you want. It's really important to keep in mind. I see often these projects that, you know, when we follow up on projects, you're like, where's this at? It just keeps getting pushed down the road, and it's because of all of these different factors that come into play, and it gets a bit out of scope. So it's really important to kind of focus and start simple as well in that deployment.
Yep. So collaborative robots. So I would assume, you know, and, you know, feel free to, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, or, you know, any questions, but, you know, collaborative robots have been around for a little while now, but we've really, over the last, I would say 5 years, they've really kind of taken off and are making a really big impact. People are really starting to see the value in using a collaborative robot versus a traditional industrial robot. 90% of the time, you know, we love to talk about the safety around it, which is great. But to hit on what Kendra was saying, the ease of use is far and away the biggest advantage, and the versatility, right? I mean, you know, to go back to, you know, industrial palletizers, we see all the time, like you'll be walking a floor, and, you know, you'll see like a big palletizer that just doesn't run. It's like, oh, well, we don't make that product anymore. But you can't repurpose any of that, right? So it becomes a big paperweight. Whereas with collaborative robots, you know, you're able to make changes, you know, very, very quickly and easily.
And the investment, it's night and day, right? You know, $1 million, $2 million room for palletizing, it's probably even more than that if you think about it, versus, you know, $100,000 to $150,000 for a cobot palletizer that has that flexibility. Yeah,
that you can move, you know, in a matter of a day or two from one line to another, you know, and reprogram it. So,
and this, the last point here, the internal know-how. We know that engineering resources in facilities, it's pretty limited these days, and you might be that person who's running around wearing a lot of hats, trying to do a lot of things. We want that ease of use to be something that it's not just stuck at one person who has that knowledge, and then as soon as he leaves that company, you feel like your hands are tied, and then you get thrown into this task to learn, you know, how to do that yourself. We really want this to be a knowledge set that, you know, anyone could essentially learn, and that knowledge can be passed on easily. So in general, Universal Robots has created a platform that's pretty open-ended with that in mind, so that knowledge can be transferred easily. And I think having that internal know-how is really important. This customer up in Seattle, Cascade Coffee, their operators have this confidence now that they can easily switch over program. They're not touching the program. They're not programming. That's for the maintenance personnel and the engineering staff to get it squared away and to be what they want. But they have the confidence in the screen to be able to flip from one program to another program very easily. And again, that's that buy-in of everybody within the facility.
So we'll jump into kind of some of the different models. So we have the brand new UR20, the PE20 out on the floor. So I would encourage everyone to go take a look at that. We've got a few different models, but so we'll jump into that here in a sec. But when we talk about a cobot palletizer, this is basically what you're looking at, right? So another thing that we touched on a little bit was the footprint. I mean, when you go out there and you'll see that's the biggest one, right? So you're really not taking up any more footprint than you would to have two pallets next to each other anyways, right? I mean, you know, our base is 2.5 feet wide. So that's a real big advantage. Like Kendra was talking about, programming using the teach pendant, right? I mean, that knowledge transfers so much easier now. I mean, you don't need to know Python or C# or anything to program a robot anymore. So essentially, when you're looking at a palletizing application, at least with our Robotique system, this is all the information that you need. So you need to know your box dimensions and weight, what your pallet pattern is. If you're making pallets, I'm sure you have pallet sheets readily available. And then how are those boxes presented currently, right? So most of the time, what we see is a lot of our customers will need to kind of shore up how boxes are presented. A lot of times they're on like accordion style conveyors or whatnot, but it's not coming to like a repeatable position, but we do that really easily with very inexpensive motorized conveyors. Not to say that you have to put like a motorized conveyor all the way back to like your tape sealer or whatever, but just a small section of it just to square it up into a repeatable pick position. But these three things, that's all you need. So to jump into the teach pendant, if Kendra wants to walk through this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Universal Robots created a cobot, and a lot of other companies are creating cobots now, but what makes them a bit unique is the ability to integrate with third parties such as Robotique. So if you think of your smartphone, you have all these apps on your smartphone that you're using constantly, and you don't really think twice. You know the brand that the app sits under, but you don't really think about how easily that integrates on your phone. You just use the app when you need to get maps or do something like this. So what we've done kind of behind the scenes with Universal Robots, they created this ecosystem of UR Plus partners where third parties like Robotique can design different caps and ability to sit on their platform and create that ease of use that you experience every day with your smartphone. So within the UR Teach pendant, you'll see that downstairs kind of sitting on the pedestal mount there. You don't need a separate HMI. You're not doing PLC programming. This is all directly on there. Again, like an app sits on your phone, and it prompts you with these screens. So Universal Robots has created these UR Plus cap ecosystem, and you simply select the cap on the side called Palletizer that Robotique has designed, and it prompts you with these different screens. So it'll show you a box screen, the pallet dimension screen, the pallet pattern screen, and that is exactly, we told you the information you need. Now it's a matter of inputting that information properly. So you go ahead and you teach the dimensions of your box. We have the ability as well to include labels. So if you're in the food and beverage space, pharmaceutical space, we understand the importance of labels facing out on your box. It needs to be that way when the pallet shipped to your customer. We have the ability to orient labels to face out on all sides. And then you simply teach one position, which is the pick position out on the conveyor. So Derek mentioned the importance of repeatability. It's all based off that position I teach. So the better I teach that position, the better that box is presented, will result in a better looking pallet. So I teach one position using normal UR functionality. And from there, I build out other inputting of information. So what is my pallet size? Do I have a left pallet, a right pallet, or both? By default, we stack on the right, we finish the right, and then we continue operation on the left. So it's a continuous motion. The right pallet can be removed and inserted a new pallet while this side is running. So you have that kind of continuous motion intact as well. That's why you have the two pallet station. And from there, then you go ahead and define your pallet pattern. So you can indicate how many layers you have, and many people alternate layers, right? For stack, I've learned a lot about stacks patterns and the importance of the stability of that. It's super fun to learn. It is a mad science in and of itself, and we know that there are great programs out there like TOPS and things that create. I'm not here to tell you how to stack your pattern. You guys are experts in that space. You know your process the best. You tell me what you need, and we'll help you import that correctly to make sure that we can achieve that. So by including labels, for instance, the arrow shows where the labels are facing. So if you need to orient them all in the same direction, you simply drag and drop your boxes into this space and develop your pattern here, and then you indicate how many layers you have. At that point, we've included about 17 lines of code. Simply turning our vacuum on and vacuum off, and that is all you have. So if you've ever experienced a robot program and you see thousands of lines of code, that's what we're avoiding for you on your behalf, creating a simple out-of-the-box solution that is not that.
That's it. I mean, to put it in perspective, so Kendra and I, so what you'll see out on the floor, that was in a crate on Wednesday. So we got it out of the crate, the robot out of the box, everything mounted up, wired up, hooked up, and it was up and running yesterday. So that, and we're not engineers. So, I mean, to give you, kind of some perspective there on how easy it is, I mean, it really is kind of that simple. The next thing I was going to show is our simulator. So this is a really, really valuable tool that, we can do almost instantly, right? I mean, we can sit in front of a customer and plug in everything right then and there. So what this is, oh, it's not playing?
You might have to click again and have it play. There you go.
There we go. Okay. So, and this is available on Robotique's website. and customers are able to use it, we're able to use it, and it's a really awesome way to figure out, okay, is this in a matter of 5 minutes, is this going to work, right? So you're doing the same thing that you're doing on the robot. You're just giving it dimensions, kind of the where the conveyor is, all of that, and then we're able to spit out a cycle time, so you can know immediately, before anything's done, are we going to be able to hit whatever we need there.
Also, this link becomes shareable. So if you create a login, this is my login, but if you create a login, that link becomes a unique link so that you can share it among colleagues. You could use it in a presentation to upper management. These sorts of things are really nice, based on that simulation. So this customer, this is actually the simulation I did for them. And the next slide actually shows it in production. So it went from this simulation that we did in the conference room there to the deployment
right here.
So this is what's pretty neat is that all they wanted to do was shift that labor for ergonomic reasons. That was their goal. The unforeseen result was a 30% increase in their production. So they simply added a driven conveyor to really square up the box. And from there, it was the same thing we saw in the simulation running into that space.
Yeah, and that's all I was, talking about there. I mean, you're just talking like a little short section just to square up the box, but.
And this customer now, I think the next slide shows another example of them, but they now have six to eight of these units deployed. So the nice thing about palletizing is it's pretty repeatable if you look at all the manual labor. So they started with one, and now they've gone ahead and implemented more yet. So this is a good example. Their more advanced one had two conveyors. They had one box type going to one side and one box type going to another. They had really slow rates, so they wanted to maximize their output. And so they kind of combined that.
Yeah, and that's something we actually have been seeing a lot of requests for recently, is doing like their separate boxes on each on their own individual pallet. So really the only thing you got to make sure of there is that your pick point on each conveyor is just within reach of the robot. But we absolutely can do that. So we're probably way more than this now.
430 is our ongoing number internally. So. It's something that, the palletizer was released a few years ago. We have a long history with Universal Robots and integrating into their software, so that's nothing new for us. But the deployment and shifting into true palletizing solution was relatively new. But we've quickly cascaded into 500 units or so. And about 50% of those are in the food and beverage sector. I think a lot of that was the driven demand post-COVID era of just kind of the ramp up in that space. But it's really any box, so it's we don't care what it looks like or what's inside of it, to be honest. We just want a nice repeatable pick position, and everything's kind of focused on that. I know a few people in the room have talked about other applications outside of boxes for plastic buckets and things like this. It's all possible as long as it's repeatable for us, and we fit within our limits of weight, and we're making sure we meet those rates that you desire as well.
Yep. So we'll walk through the different like models available, and basically, your pallet height is going to be probably the number one contributing factor into backing into what model you need, that and the payload that you're dealing with. So we have the PE series, which this is the PE10 that you're seeing here. So all that means, the PE basically just is meant to represent pedestal. So what we're showing is, this is a UR10, so the size down of robot that's out there on the floor. Basically what the robot's going to do is it's going to be mounted to the pedestal. Now this pedestal is adjustable. It's a manual adjustment, so you'll move it to whatever height you want it to move to, and then you'll set it manually. And then from there you'll be good to go. Obviously, this is the most inexpensive or least costly option. But as long as your pallets aren't really taller than 60 inches, and we will double check on a simulation based on like pattern and stuff like that, but you're typically pretty much good there.
Yeah, this model was actually created for the European market. So you saw how we showed you the AX version with the 7th axis. That has been the more popular unit stateside. because we stack pallets typically higher. We have a lot of changeover and flexibility. The PE10 was really made for when you're running 1 or 2 box types and you know it, and it's very repeatable, and your pallets are typically shorter. And in the European market, they even have, it's not your typical 40 by 48 pallet, it's even smaller than that. So it's really important to consider what its use is, and then maybe what its use is going to be in the next 1 to 2 years. I think it's important to future-proof that as well.
Yeah, good point, because you never want that to be a limitation, right? So,
and our limitation in the past was the robot model, and now they have the 20. So for me, it's a no-brainer to future-proof yourself with the larger model.
And we have the 30 now too.
As well, and then the UR30.
Yeah. So the next one, this is exactly what you guys will see down on the floor. This is the new PE20 with the UR20 robot. Again, the pedestal height is fixed, but the robot is so large that you're able to do about 80-inch tall pallets. So for the most part, this model here handles a majority of our applications.
Another point, the base has fork slots. So in the past, our other models were not wide enough to incorporate fork slots. So mobility was a very relative term. It comes with some caster wheels to help get it in place, but they're not robust enough to have for long-term usage. It was really just to get it properly in place. We understand that the flexibility is required to shift from different lines, and so that was incorporated with this model. There's a plate that sits in the front that can remain with the conveyor or the setup on the line that you have, and then you can remove the bolts, shift it to a new line, bolt it in, and then that, I guess, position is defined each time.
Yeah, I mean, even just a simple, a hand pallet jack moves it, no problem. And then the last one is going to be the AX series. So the biggest thing here is the Cobot's actually on a 7th axis. Now, one thing with our system that's a big advantage is, so this 7th axis in the robot is synchronized motion. So the reason it's on a 7th axis is to handle much taller pallets, right? But what's really unique about it is, for example, you'll see a lot of systems out there that are on almost like a telescoping pedestal. But what has to happen is that has to move and then stop, and then the robot's able to go and pick. What's happening in our system here is that motion is coordinated with the robot. So the robot's moving into its pick position while it's moving up or down, right? So you don't lose any cycle time there. So again, all just depends on the pallet heights. We've got there will be, I guess I don't know when, but there'll be larger models coming out with the 20 and everything like that to handle even taller pallets. I rarely see pallets that tall, but it is possible. Like I said, Kendra and I took this out of the crate on Wednesday. This is what comes with it, right? Obviously, plus the robot, right? But you get the base, depending on whatever model, with the 7th axis or without, right? Your pallet sensors, which are built in, right, to know, basically it'll tell the system if the pallet's present or not, right? So you got to have it squared up to the base.
Yeah, that's that image here. So that's tied right to the stack light. So every time I have a pallet in place, and then I'm done, and I remove it and put a new one in, the system's automatically shifting from a blue light to a green light to say I'm in run mode.
And then, of course, we offer it with the gripper or without the gripper. I would recommend it with the gripper because it's all, that way you're not having to, reinvent the wheel. The software, of course, and then you've got the box sensor, which will just mount right to your conveyor. It's just a presence-absence sensor to tell it when a box is there. A floor anchor kit if you wanted to do that, and obviously all the cable management as well.
Another thing to note with the software, we do free software along with the kit, and then upgrades as well are free. So I'm sure a lot of you play in the space if this space we fit in, and it's always like subscription based and all of these upgrades. And if you want any help, it's there's a fee attached. We're not set up that way, and neither is you are. The mentality is that it's open-ended. Maybe that costs, on the front end, but you do not have that repeat cost over time, and you're going to have the support. We're a phone call away if you need support and things. So that is really the idea of our software. An example of that, 2 years ago, we didn't have the label orientation feature, and now we have that feature, and it's accessible to anyone who has our solution. So before, where that wasn't a feature, as we upgrade and innovate and create new features and better our system, you're getting those benefits as well.
And to that end about support. So we're local here in Tampa, so we cover the entire Florida market as well as Alabama, Mississippi, and the Caribbean. We offer we're a UR certified training center. So like you'll see these are UR trainers. So we do about once a month we host a class in here for hands-on training, and then we also offer what we call like jumpstart assistance, right? So. Like I said, it's extremely easy to set up and do, and you all are much more capable than myself. But let's say you just wanted someone out for like a day or two, just to be by your side while you get it up and running. We offer that too. From our engineers will come on site.
That's another thing that's kind of innovated over time, right? The idea that we made this assumption at the beginning that everyone would have these capabilities and things, but we understand it could be your first cobot and your first time doing something like this. So some of the pain points of other customers has resulted into this additional startup assistance to help guide for 1 to 2 days. The idea is 1 day is mechanical startup, installing software, and then the second is software, digging into it, and then getting some of your programs running, as well as kind of shifting and changing training and shifting off that kind of knowledge to people within your facility.
Yep. So with that, I thank you guys for coming and wanted to open up to any questions.
Are they produced and parts being supported from?
So
Lead times
the robot's made in Denmark.
Okay.
Michigan is where like repairs and a lot of like spare parts come out of for the robot. For you guys, it's all Canada.
Yeah, Quebec City, Canada. If you ever want to visit, come on up. Now is probably not a good time of year to come up. That's why I'm here. I'm based out of Wisconsin, but our headquarters is up in Quebec City. It's really beautiful in the summer, so if you're ever up that way, drop on in. But everything is produced there. We ship within 5 days. So we have this, kind of alignment with Universal Robots. They ship. And you have a robot within 2 weeks. We want to align with that as well, so you can get a palletizer within 2 weeks as well. And we've been able to maintain that even through all the craziness of the last few years. We've been able to meet that.
Which is like another thing, like and if you're doing an industrial palletizer, you're probably looking at like 4 to 6 months on a good time frame. You're 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, and who are we to say if we're preaching to tell you to go ahead and install as quickly as possible, get up and running as fast as possible, but then we don't give you the product to do that. We're trying to practice what we preach in that as well.
Do you do testing at your facility as well? Ship? Like customer sends you 2 full skids of product?
So we can, absolutely. So like what you're seeing, that's our demo. So we
that
absolutely,
resides here.
Yeah, we'll host customers. You're able to bring boxes in and we'll absolutely test them.
Support, like actual physical support, if needed, is that available locally?
Say that again.
Like, if someone had to come out from.
Oh yeah, that's
you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So our team is fully trained on both the palletizer and the robot to be able to come out and do that.
Would the service need to go through you, or do you do training for distributor techs as well? If my service guy wanted to learn how to fix this robot, can he?
So you can. So for example, on like the UR10, those joints are field replaceable. The 20 is not. So absolutely, they could be trained on how, and you could, if it's like mission critical, you could like, stock spare joints for the robot. But so for those models, yes. For the 20 is not field replaceable.
But they ship like overnight.
Yeah, overnight.
Or within
So for
2
example,
days,
they're up in Novi, Michigan. So if you need one, we can get it overnighted. Another thing, so once you, like, let's say you were to buy one, right? You'll register your robot onto something called MyUR, which is a service portal. So you'll go online, you'll create an account, you'll register it, and then any sort of like support or service requests of that nature, you'll go on and create a case, and it's literally minutes, and someone's on it responding to you, talking through it.
It's from UR.
From UR on the robot side. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot that, mechanically that can go wrong on the.
Is there a life expectancy to the joint?
It depends on the use, right? It's it depends on how it's programmed and what it's. If you're using it outside of its specs, right, you're going to have a much shorter lifespan. But so on average, we're looking about 7-8 years. Not till you need a new robot or anything, but until you may need to replace a joint.
The application is very dependent. Like palletizing is pretty low risk. Your wrist is always in this position, and so your movements are not that maximizing, right? It's very different if you have a load and you're flipping it around and doing all these things with it. Again, pretty low risk in these movements.
Yeah, like if I'm, and I'm, at really high like inertia and stuff like that, I'm just gonna wear it,
And our software has all of this is kind of blended in a nice path, so we're not spiking the acceleration beyond what it can handle in these movements. And so I encourage you to go down there and see the smooth movements. That's actually us protecting the joints as well from a lifetime perspective. Another reason they can't give a lifetime is that they've just innovated so quickly in the technology that if they'd give you a lifetime, it would already be outdated because they've bettered something internally to the robot. So it's almost moving too quickly to even give a mark to that. Because by the time they're testing, it's onto new technology incorporated.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's old, the CB series URs that are, 12 to 15 years or however, that are still in production.
And the failure I did have is because the guy had his TCP and payload set wrong. So the robot's anticipating, just like your arm anticipates to pick a box, I have no weight and then I have a 20-pound weight, right? And so it assumes that. So if you don't have that setting properly, it's going to freak out. And it doesn't know how to adapt to that. So I think that's really important to have those settings right. And that's why we try to give you that knowledge, come on site, really teach you the best know-how and the best path forward for success as well. So I'll make my way down there to the demo. If you guys have questions, if you want to see it in person and kind of, ask any questions, we'll be down there. Happy to answer.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.